I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it. And then we have the lead pastor, the new lead pastor from Silent Presbyterian, Pastor Michael, here to lead us in the invocation.
Would you pray with me? Almighty God, we ask that in your Son's name, Jesus, that you would surround this building and this community with your presence. That you would be here with us while the council makes decisions, listens to plans, listens to ideas. May you open our ears to hear one another. Open our eyes to be able to see one another in the community that is around us and the community that is coming. God, open our hearts to serve them with diligence and faithfulness, and give us wisdom, Lord, all to make decisions to be better in our lives for the sake of someone else. To the glory of your name. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. That leads us to public comments. I have a few people signed up tonight. No one for general comments, though. Everyone who signed up is here to speak during the public hearings.
Yes.
Do I have anyone who would like to speak in public comment today? Going once? All right. So we will move on to additions, deletions, and adoption of agenda. I do need to move, I need you to remove the audit report. The auditors had a family emergency, so she will be here in March instead of February. Do I have any other changes, council?
I would like to add two items, and I'm not really sure where to add them. But an update on stormwater runoff, discussions within the county, and also an update on DOT improvements within the village, if we have enough information to share.
Okay. So why don't we add those as E and F under the planning board report, because Vaughn can help me answer those two items. So we'll add E, stormwater, and F, DOT updates. Any other additional deletions or additions?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? And then that leads us to the consent agenda that we have two items on.
I just found one minor edit on the minutes.
Okay.
I said something in regards to section 6. It's rain garden, not garden.
Okay, thank you.
That's all. Just a
Noted.
minor edit.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? And now that leads us to the finance officer report.
I'm just making a note there. That last motion was Como and voice. Okay, thank you. On the financial report, we are catching up on our income. Year to date, we're approximately $93,000 short budget to revenue, but that's just the pattern of the revenue that we've talked about before. For the month of January, we're only about $15,000 short, but it is coming in. We're catching up. I don't see any problems. The mayor and I review the reports. We review the expenses, and there's a copy on the lobby for anyone in the public that shows everything, every check that was written, and it also shows the balance sheet, year to date, etc. Any questions? Okay. And the IT update, I put something in your packet that Vitaly will be working on for us, CompuNet World. We have a new IT service that's working for us. His goal right now is to redo our network. He's cleaned off our computers and then put our data back on it so that we can get rid of any viruses that we might have. And he's working on the Wi-Fi so that guests can have Wi-Fi and we can have a protected Wi-Fi for the town. So he's also picked up on at least one credible threat coming to my computer and called me and had me log out so he could fix it. That came in on something I clicked. And I will say it's very difficult to know sometimes, whether I'm getting a financial report, because sometimes they come in and they look a little different, and sometimes I think about it for a while, and then I might click on it, and if it's a threat, then I know he's watching and he gets an alert. So we're happy with that. That new technology, the software systems that he's putting in place are also collaborated with Eric Wells. He's the cybersecurity expert with NCLM, so he's looking over kind of what Vitaly's doing, but CompuNet World is very professional, so they're working, there's not much for Eric Wells to do because our guy is doing a really nice job. Any questions on IT?
This is the guy that we found through League of Municipalities?
Eric Wells is the cybersecurity that came through the NCLO grant, but the CompuNet World is our local IT. We have to have a local IT. The cybersecurity expert, they do a lot with more big, more complex organizations, but because we had a breach, that he came on down to our municipality, and so Vitaly is building, and he looked at the worksheet, the assessment that Eric Wells was doing through the NCLM, and he told me that come like mid-March, we'll be able to fill that out, but right now, because we really don't have anything, so Vitaly is starting and building everything up for us, and that's also going to support our Black Mountain software. We got notification that they're wanting to look at our systems to see if our systems are secure and can support, their financial software. And we are in line to be implemented November of 2024 on the financial software. So I've actually got some training I'm going to start doing a little bit here and there to get familiar with the software. So hopefully it will be a smooth transition.
And while we're on IT, we're hoping to have a fully designed, updated website, hopefully in the next month or so.
Yeah, just a question on the threat that Vitaly found. Is that because he has special surveillance software on your machine or something else triggered?
They monitor it, yeah. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know the technological terms, but all I know is he called me and he said, "Kathy, I just got a flag, a warning. You need to log out of your computer and let me go in and see what's going on."
Good.
So I'm very pleased, and we feel secure with him, so I think that's a good sign.
And we're paying him by the hour or by contract?
He's a service provider. We pay him monthly. We have a very good rate with him. We pay $500, and I think it's just a couple dollars shy of $580 a month. And he gives us 24 hours support, rebuilds everything. We're bringing in some equipment, like our, that Wi-Fi transmitter, so that we can have guests and others. So we certainly have a lot of benefit right now with that.
Yeah, he's already earned his wages for several months.
Yeah, he has very much. All right, so on the lawn care bids, we got one. Being licensed at this level is evidently taking a lot of people out that might bid for the job. So Green Space is a licensed landscaper. They are licensed by the state of North Carolina. He gave us a quote. He followed the contract pretty closely with exception of the mulch. So the mulch is something that we will look at later in the year, but his quote is coming in right now at $54,500. So we'll pay that monthly at $45.42, and then when it's time for mulch, the mulch is, John did it this year with his tractor, so we'll wait and see what we want to do next year. And our options are, we can have Tanner buy it and spread it, the village can buy it at the village rate, and Tanner can spread it, or the village can buy it and John can use his tractor and the tools, whatever he has, and spread it.
You said you only got one bid on the landscaping contract.
That's it.
How many companies did you send it out to?
I didn't send it to any companies. I put it on the website. Most people, I put out the park master plan a little bit prematurely, and people responded immediately. So these companies that look sign up on our notification, our sunshine list, but I didn't seek out and send it to companies. And he's coming in from, I don't know what the initial quote was, the competitor, but he's lower than both the people that did it previously.
I can speak to the character of Tanner Kinnison. He grew up with my boys, played on my basketball team for several years. He's a good guy, he's flexible, and he's dependable.
As long as we've checked all the boxes that were required to in service contracts.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
So you need a motion to approve.
I've got a question.
Oh, sorry. I should have looked your way then. I'm sorry.
I was looking at what they offer, and the thing that kind of popped up to me is they're going to use herbicides, fungicides, insecticides. They're going to spray some flower beds with, and make sure that all the flowers are sprayed with. Have we taken into consideration the animals that eat that grass, and the deer and the
We have a
dogs?
licensed provider on staff,
We do have a
Mr.
license.
John Lepke.
Is he here?
No.
Hey, John.
You cannot recognize him because he has a beard now.
I'd know that voice anywhere.
Because I share your concerns about integrated pest management, which is basically do the least that you need to do, being very careful not to do things when flowers are blooming, being very careful with
You've got
pollinators.
bees and you've got,
All the pollinators, bees, beetles, birds, all the insects, good and bad, that can be things. And so I do think it's a valid concern for us to understand what we are doing and why.
yeah.
I can invite Mr. Kinnison to come back and speak to that if you'd like. That's not my expertise. Or maybe John can speak to
John,
it.
can you address that?
Well, part of the registration process for any pesticide, the manufacturer must demonstrate two things, that they're safe and effective when used in accordance with the label.
How do they determine if it's safe? If it ends in CIDE, I'd be concerned.
And from what I have learned is that, say, means that you're following label directions. So as a person, I might get hurt, I'm wearing the appropriate personal protective equipment, not doing it when the wind's blowing, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
et cetera. But I do think there's a bigger thing that if you take and use a systemic pesticide, that it is there and it does build up in the soil over time. There's also things that if you spray at the wrong time, may actually do no good. So you need to know exactly what it is you're going after, not just blindly spraying everything, which I think some landscapers, that's their approach. It's February, I must do these things, whether or not there's actually evidence of a problem.
Newer approved pesticides, you have to run a whole bunch of testing, including hydrolysis, photolysis, and demonstrate clearly that they don't build up in the soil. I mean, that's part of the requirement.
Right.
The pesticides of today are not pesticides of the 60s.
Right, and I'll share with you some information that I attended a session on last month. Was kind of like new science of things that we did not think were happening that are happening.
Did you coordinate this with our previous landscaper?
Yes.
Are we comfortable with John coordinating the insecticide applications with our new provider?
But one of the requirements of the spec is that the contractor also needs to be a licensed pesticide applicator. And to get licensed, you've got to be familiar with all the safety and application guidelines for every type of pesticide.
It's a pretty rigorous test.
Yeah, and they're even spraying the pond and stuff,
Because that's the thing, is like you spray it and you kill it and then a bird eats it and now the bird's sick, because the bird's only ounces. And so it's a lot of things that we take for granted, and I've taken for granted over the years of treating my own yard and plants that I definitely think twice or 3 or 4 times about now. Like, I don't have bugs on my windshield anymore at night because we're killing them all. We don't have as many bees, we don't have as many
Yeah,
butterflies.
which is a real
or moths.
concern. I don't know, I don't know what to do about the herbicide stuff, but it is a real concern. I mean, it's part of their plan, but do they have to do it? Do they have to, do they have to do it?
Well, if you want grass to look nice, yeah, you do.
I
But
don't
do
know.
we really?
I don't know.
It'll be all
As
green
much
and
as we
no
pay for
grass.
that irrigation system, that grass better look good.
Grass is what works in the environment anymore, because of all the stuff you have to put on it, because it's not natural.
I trust that John has the best interest of the park and will keep
Oh,
those.
yeah.
I have no doubt John's gonna be
Keep
safe.
the insecticides right. I've heard him talk about chemicals going into that pond, so I know he's very passionate about it.
There's plenty of areas of the park that are not treated with anything. We've actually planted pollinator garden So, we're not gonna have dandelions in the grass, which is a good source of pollen earlier in the season for bees, but they've got other things to feed off around the park. So much of the park is not grass, and we don't do anything around it.
And that's what I was just asking us, is just being
Yeah,
as limited in applications as you can be.
yeah, because he says they're gonna spray all flower beds.
Yeah.
That means,
Yeah, you don't want to spray the pollinator garden.
yeah.
Well, I will say Tanner this past month reached out to John and I and asked if he could fertilize the grass because it needed to be fertilized in lieu of a mow because it did not need to be mowed. So I think that he too is appreciative of nature and will do what he needs to do and coordinate with John to make sure he doesn't overspray just for the sake of spraying. So 3 things when you make that motion. 1, can we appoint Green Space to be our maintenance caregiver for the lawns? 2, can you please approve for the mayor, the village attorney, and myself to kind of finalize the contract to begin March 1st, and also approve Green Space to continue its services with its current bi-weekly service to the end of February, because we only approved them through the end of January.
And then we need to approve money from the unassigned fund balance.
We do?
For the money?
Uh,
That's for the ground fund.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Wrong.
Okay.
Sorry. That's item D, sorry.
So if we can get a motion for 5D, that would be great.
So can we say so motion?
No.
Because I think we need to add a disclaimer that John basically vet the safety of whatever's going on, right? Okay. All right, so, you catch my breath. I recommend, I make a motion that we approve Green Space Lawn Care as the village's lawn maintenance provider, with the qualification that John Lepke and Tanner Kennison all discuss the safety and application of the herbicides. Motion to be approved for Mayor Full to execute a contract between Green Space Lawn Care in conjunction with the village attorney for services to start March the 1st. And approve for Green Space Lawn Care to continue services with the current monthly service schedule.
Thank you through into February.
Did you get it all?
Yes, sir, you did. And more, you did great.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
I would point out that John's background is in chemistry.
Oh, I heard plenty of John election. And we appreciate it too, John. No one else would take as good a care of our park as you do, so thank you.
The last one that I
Last
have.
one.
The dry pond at Resinal Engineering conducted their annual inspection for the park and for the village dry ponds. The park, John has taken care of the minor infractions that we had there with the exception of some grass that I think just needs time. The village hall, however, needs quite a bit more work. We got an initial quote that was very high. It was $17,500. So John and I put our heads together and we called out on another professional company. We called on 2 other professional companies. So the second company I actually know personally, and they do a fantastic job. John met with him and he can speak to what his opinion was, but they're quoting, I think, $9,654. Mayor, you have that number up there. I don't have it quite in front of me. I didn't write it down.
9,473.
9,473. And that's to correct the flow of the water all the way up from the top of the parking lot all the way down to the back, putting in rickrack and making eye drops, figures around the water spouts, and cleaning out the cattails by hand down in the lower mucky pond. And anything else, John? What would you like to add to that?
I actually got the engineer who wrote the annual inspection report to come out and walk the site with the first contractor so I could hear firsthand what needed to be done. And then I was able to just repeat what the engineer told the first contractor with the other 2 contractors.
And the, yeah,
I'm clear on what needs to be done. I think all the contractors that came are pretty clear on what needs to be done. So I think they're all qualified, so lowest price of the three, I would suggest that's what you do.
and we never got the third. I didn't, although I think the third one has been around a long time. I know him personally. I know he'd do a great job. He just had trouble getting back with me and communicating and some various things, but I think the work would be very easy, but he never got back with a quote. So the second guy is very professional. It's the Dirty Bulldog.
Buffalo.
I keep calling it
Dirty
Bulldog. Dirty Buffalo Grading. He did some work for my husband and I at one of our condos, and we have a fourplex, and in the back, my husband had dumped some rocks, so all the water was coming and puddling in our backyard by about 6 or 7 inches. So grading is so specialized that if we were to just lift the ground, it'd flood our neighbors. So he was very meticulous in making sure the flow was even and where it went. And so we sent him the specs for this project, and his the agreement that we will have with him for that price is that he puts in all the rickrack, he checks all the boxes, and he's not done until the engineer says he's done.
For council, so you've heard that we have 2 quotes. And to make a motion to move forward with these repairs.
I'll make a motion for us to move ahead with Dirty Buffalo Gravy, with the quote not to exceed $9,473 to correct all the issues identified by the engineer at the drop.
Second, I've got a question.
Sure.
When was the last time that we had any maintenance done to the detention pond here?
John's doing some
Never.
Never.
When Bonnie saw the report, Bonnie raised an issue that she's seen the same thing over and over again at the town hall. Said she found that it's not being fixed, so she gave us 3 months to fix it, and then she wants to see a re-inspection after we fix it.
Right.
But it's been exactly the same since 2014.
Well, that's a good question too. We're talking a big difference in prices here.
One-
17 as opposed to 9. Am I
CNS is a landscaper or lawn care maintenance. He does our trees. Dirty Buffalo, he does this for a living. So one has the equipment that he needs, the other has to rent the equipment.
So that's the only difference. I mean, we are doing apples to apples kind of thing. That is.
John?
Yeah, I think the difference is one company has to rent all the bobcats and the other guy's got his own equipment. So
Okay.
that's where the difference is, I believe.
Any further questions?
Same levels of insurance, okay?
Yes,
I haven't looked at insurance, so I believe that's
Yes.
exactly.
yes.
Kathy, one last question. Again, with the dollar amount that we checked all the boxes we're required to, as the bidding process,
I'm sorry?
have we checked all the boxes we were required to on the bidding process?
Yes, because it's a service.
It's a service contract, so they don't have to be bid. But because the first one was so extraordinary, we went ahead and got a couple of other quotes. You know, that's just good business. It's not a law. It's not a law.
Sometimes we are required to get a minimum of 3 bids, and sometimes we aren't.
Not, well, anytime we buy something over $1,000, we're supposed to get 3 bids. But this is just a repair on our property. This is, I can wait for that third one if council would like, but
I'm just making sure that we're meeting all the
We have-
requirements.
We just need council to approve it because of the dollar.
we have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Bailey. Do we have a second?
Well, their David seconded it.
Okay.
Any more questions?
I do have one more need. Can we appropriate that fund because that's in excess and outside of our budget from our unappropriated fund balance?
Well, let's vote on it first.
Oh, I thought you voted. Did you
All
not
in
vote?
favor?
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Unanimous? And then we need a motion to appropriate.
I make a motion to appropriate the $9,473 from the fund balance to cover the drought pond work to the appropriate account.
When you say fund balance,
We
you're
got a
talking about
second.
contingency?
Yeah, that was it.
No, we're taking it from the unassigned
Right.
fund balance.
I second.
Okay, no.
I just want to clarify the difference between fund balance and contingency.
Fund
Can-
balance.
A fund balance, yes. We will increase the budget and the revenue by that amount. It's a revenue to budget, not a budget to budget.
further questions? All in favor? Unanimous? All right, that leads us to the planning board report. Come on up,
Okay.
Chair.
Michael Kennedy, Planning Board Chairperson. At our last meeting in January, we had the subdivision modification 2401, that was Schaumwood Road, and the second one was modification 2402, which was Hudson Street Road. The first one, Schaumwood Road, was, we made a recommendation of approval or modification. The second one, Hudson Road, was not approved for a recommendation or a variance. Then the next part was the zoning and subdivision modification for street tree species, and we approved that with, from the arborist about able to delete or add a tree based on the arborists for the county.
Is that our paid arborist?
That's the one from the county,
Yes, that's
correct?
Urban Harvest Forest.
Yes, Arbor Forest, sorry. And that was it. We had a lot of discussion on Schaumwood Road and also Hudson Street Road there on the properties. People had asked to have them subdivided, but based on our past amendment to the zoning planning, they didn't fall within the confines of it. That's all. Did I miss anything, Mr. Hanson?
Okay. Thank you, sir, we appreciate it. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
The only thing I will add is just be considerate that the planning board's recommendations, while thoughtful, are intended for the benefit of the applicants and not to influence your decisions tonight.
Okay.
Say that again?
The planning board's recommendations are intended to benefit the applicant to allow them to prepare for the hearings they have with the village council. They're not intended to influence your decision in any way.
Yeah, I think that's kind of weird too, Joe, because
We can take it.
the reason we have a planning board is to make recommendations to council, so they get into the minutia, make a recommendation, so we don't have to.
Right, and so this is a quasi-judicial hearing, and it doesn't matter what, well, it matters what they say for the applicant.
I'm not aware of quasi-judicial, sorry. That's all you had to say.
All right, so, if it's quasi-judicial, so I will just make sure we do everything the right way. We will open the public hearing, you will introduce it, and we will swear people in who are going to speak.
Yes.
All right. And are we ready to proceed with the first one?
If you are. It looks like we're going to be doing 616 Shamwood Road first.
So I will open the public hearing for subdivision modification 2024-01 pertaining to 616 Shamwood Road. And then, if you are going to speak during this hearing, we need you to come up and get sworn in.
But you-
Then come to Chandler Fire.
Is it for both?
Everybody who's going to speak.
We'll do the second one,
Okay. Right hand in the air?
Oh.
Not the wrong one. It's the right one, not the wrong one, so. Okay. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I think I said it right, so help you God?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Both truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Do I speak now?
Let Planner Hanson introduce it, and then we'll try it.
Excuse me. So, this first application is for a subdivision modification located at address 616 Shamwood Road, that's Union County, parcel number 06027004. The owners of the parcel have applied for modification of ordinance requirements of sections 155.074B and 155.192B1. The first reference section of the ordinance requires a minimum 3-acre lot size and 300-foot lot width for parcels in a residential zoning district created by a process other than a major subdivision. The second requires that parcels not having frontage on a street have a minimum 3-acre lot size. The applicants have submitted a proposed subdivision plat for the approximately 4.17 acre parcel that would divide the property in two, one approximately about 1.5 acres in size at the rear, and the remainder sitting on the road frontage. It contains an existing barn on that front parcel. The applicant's intent, as stated by him, is to transfer the resulting rear parcel to a family member who is here tonight, to construct a home, retain ownership of the remainder parcel along the road frontage on Chambwood Road, and eventually recombine the remainder with their house, which is situated immediately adjacent to it on another 5.5 acre-ish parcel. The applicants have proposed to restrict the subdivided parcels to having a single point of access to Chambwood Road, if approved. The standards that are being applied for a modification tonight are those portions of the ordinance which the council amended back in October 2023, based on a recommendation of the 2050 Comprehensive Plan, the intent being to help preserve the rural character of the village by limiting the creation of relatively small parcels. In general, you'd be able to do basically an acre lot, and successive numbers of those along our farm to market road networks. Also intended from that recommendation and the resulting ordinance amendment was to limit the number of individual driveway access points along those same roadway networks to maintain safety and the efficiency of those roads. The planning board, as the chairman noted, did review the proposed modification and did provide some feedback to the applicant. Based on that feedback, the applicant also submitted a list of additional proposed conditions, which are included in your packet. On the following the application, he submitted an addendum on February 5th with 4 additional conditions that he's proposing for the property if the modification is approved. One that would formalize that only one shared driveway access being permitted to serve those new lots 1A and C. Lot 1A will not be subdivided any further. That's the larger parcel remainder up front with the barn on it, so they would not be able to subdivide that parcel any further. No residential structure would be allowed to be placed on lot 1A, that parcel with the barn up front. And if all or portion of lot 1A is combined with 1C in the future, a residential structure would not be permitted either. So they submitted those additional restrictions for your consideration after having the opportunity to interact with the planning board to enshrine some of the discussion and recommendations coming from the planning board hearing. The applicable standards that you have tonight are basically for the applicant, and the applicant himself is not here. Again, his son is here to make a presentation, but there are several findings that are required to be made. First, there are special circumstances or conditions affecting said property such that the strict application of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of his or her land. The modification is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right. The circumstances giving rise to the need for modification are peculiar to the parcel and are not generally characteristic of other parcels in the jurisdiction. The granting of the modification will not be detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare, or injurious to other property in the territory in which said property is situated. And the modification would not vary any provisions of Chapter 156, which is our zoning ordinance. The proposed lot size of the smaller and larger portions are both compliant with the zoning regulations of the Village of Wesley Chapel. They would not comply with the subdivision regulations. Two different matters. That's why they're pursuing a subdivision modification versus a zoning variance, and that is why you as council are hearing that. If you would like to recall back to the last time you heard one of these, I believe it was probably McCoy Farm, where they saw a modification of both the length of a road, the block length, as well as the length of a road without an intervening road. These are not very have not been very frequent. But those are the essential facts of the case from planner's perspective, and the report, including the application, their subdivision plat, and the addendum thereto, along with the relevant portions of the ordinance, are submitted as an exhibit to this case.
Well, that was the original lot size before it was subdivided, before it was proposed subdivision.
So, yeah, the existing lot size is about 4.19 acres, as indicated by the plat, exclusive of any right-of-way.
And after the division, it's going to be divided twice or divided 3 times?
It'll be divided into 2 parcels. Lot 1A, which would be the frontage extending out towards the towards Shamwood Road, would be 2.678 acres in remainder. The lot at the rear would be 1.49 acres.
I'm sorry, what was the first one?
2.678.
2.678, okay.
And that front lot is also, this parcel is adjacent to the owners, to another parcel of approximately the same size that where their primary residence is situated.
And why would they split out lot 1A? It's going to be basically untouched, other than for the right of way getting back to 1C. The future hopeful occupant of Lot 1C can probably explain a little bit better than I can, but the intent from the presentation of the planning board and from my discussions in the application itself, the current owner intends to deed the rear lot, newly created 1C, to a family member to construct a home, and it would need to be separate from other property to be able to be financed, I would imagine. I understood the property owner has also stipulated on the February 5th letter
Yep.
that no future improvements will be made to lot 1A.
That is so that this newly resultant lot, which is also below the 3-acre threshold, would not then become a lot for building a residence.
Okay.
Since that was the intent of the ordinance to maintain that rural character.
Question one, if this property gets sold sometime in the future, do those restrictions carry with
They
the
do.
property?
They do. They would be incorporated into the granting order, if you so choose.
So I'll invite the applicant up to speak, please, or the applicant's son.
It won't be checked into
That. So I'm Mike Hasty, I'm actually the son. I'm the one that's trying to build the house back there. I'll give you guys these blown up drawings, surveys of the land so that you can actually see. And this first one is the septic survey, and you can see where it perked and where it did not. I got a phone. I got 10 of them. Anybody else want any?
Yes, I'll take one.
I'm fine. Kathy just needs one for
But as you can see, all the red dots are the area on the 616 that did not perk, and the green area back in the back is where we're actually trying to put the house, which is the only area that did perk. So as far as putting another structure in between my plot, future plot, and the front of the road, it's probably not going to happen regardless. But as far as the guidelines, I guess, is what we're really worried about, is the 300 foot of road frontage. The lot's only 180 feet wide. So that was part of the reason that we're having to go through and do what we're doing. I guess we're supposed to have 300 feet of road frontage. And as you can see, on the second page, The survey, it shows the 20-foot easement going all the way back to Lot 1C. And that would be to service Lot 1A and Lot 1C. And then on the last page, I'm trying to keep it short and sweet, but on the last 2 pages, I tried to go on to Google Maps and kind of give you an idea aerially what the property looks like. You have 616 on one and then 622 on the other. It's basically long, narrow strips of land. And basically all I need to build a house is an acre and a half.
Have you already done the battle with the county as far as your septic system? Your
Yes.
septic field?
Yep.
So you know how much money
Yeah.
paying that is. So you've already dedicated on, or decided on this property, where the septic's gonna be and where the house is gonna be?
Yes.
And the county's okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Because sometimes you can say, I want to put the house right there, and the guy looks at you and they say, you do.
No. No, we've actually been working on this for over a year now. So we thought that we were well within the guidelines.
I think the less time you build the house than it will be to do the paperwork.
Yeah. So originally, we didn't have to worry about the 300-foot of road frontage or anything else like that because it wasn't enacted yet.
It's government at its finest.
Yeah. So now we're just circling back and trying to dot all our T's and, or dot all our I's and cross our T's.
So this structure here, 622 is that your father's house?
Yes.
And then this structure here is the barn?
Yep.
And then the road, and then you're just gonna build the house back? Okay, and then there was a comment about that the 1A would not be subdivided again, but in the future of combining.
Yeah, I think what he's talking about is like putting it back into his current address to 622, so it'll probably end up being a
Okay,
part of 622.
so basically you're looking to carve off this small piece back here so that you can finance, put in your house.
Yep.
Your father's looking at, hey, in the future, I may put all this back together
Yes.
as his property.
Correct.
Just, okay. Thank you.
Which has already led me to my question, why split off A1 anyway?
So right now, they're sitting at 2 different pieces of property. So the one is owned outright, and then, so his house and this, they're 2 separate pieces of land.
Two separate parcels.
Yes, and right now, I just need, yeah.
Right.
You got it.
And if that 1A ever did sell, that easement for the driveway would be in perpetuity.
Yes.
I'm sitting here waiting for Deb to ask you about the trees.
You too.
I was gonna wait.
Are you allowed to apply any pesticides?
No. And actually, I'm trying to save as many trees as I can, so.
You're now on my favorite Christmas list. Yeah, I was looking at all those beautiful trees. I was gonna say something, but later.
I was waiting for you.
Trying to be minimally invasive.
And just a question, what's behind the property?
That's our neighbor's house.
And so,
And originally, we asked him if we could use his current driveway, and he elected not to, which is why we're pursuing the
okay.
20-foot
And
easement.
we don't have any floodplain or flooding issue concerns, or stormwater problems?
Well, on something this size is not to be reviewed by body, correct?
No.
And it doesn't enact any tree save or anything else
No.
as such flood threshold.
That's correct.
Any other questions for me?
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, I appreciate you guys.
Thank you for the pictures.
Absolutely.
And as it has been a while, we close and deliberate, and deliberate and close.
I'll close first.
All right, so I will close the public hearing for subdivision modification 2021-01, 616 Shannon Road, and open it up to council for comments. Or
we notified the adjacent property owners?
They've received mailed notice, and there's a sign out as well.
Within the time frame that's required?
Yes. There's not very many adjacent neighbors to this property. The owner being one of them.
So the biggest concern is really the size of the parcel to begin with and the size of the parcels after subdivision.
I'm sorry,
The biggest concern is the size of the parcel to begin with and then the size afterwards of it not meeting the 300 foot and 3 acre minimum.
yeah, well, the lot width in this case is kind of immutable. It's not something that's going to change on its own. Again, the intent of the ordinance amendments back in October were to, fulfill part of the vision, the land use vision in maintaining the rural character of our roads through town, essentially by reducing the incentive to cut up an acre every 120 feet along the road frontage. And so you put words in your mouths, but this is not
It's actually
necessarily doing that.
on land.
And when did you start, I don't know, that's a question that,
The other question I have for Ron is, will we still be able to meet all the rear and side yard setbacks when the house is built?
They have to require all the regular zoning setbacks apply.
Given the new conditions that they listed out, are there any other conditions that in your talking with them you felt like might be beneficial?
I suggested those to them based on the discussions that came out of the planning board meeting. The ordinance allows you to impose any other reasonable condition or limitation that you find necessary to ensure that the spirit of the ordinance is maintained to the extent practical.
Thank you for making these 11 by 17 so I can see them. Sometimes this text is too small to read, but it's 8.5 by 11.
Yeah. I was gonna put them on big poster boards, but I get a little cumbersome.
I'm not that blind.
all right, council, any further questions or comments?
Yes. I know the subdivision, the 300 feet and everything, and what we're trying to do, and in the spirit of what we were trying to do is to prevent subdivisions from cropping up everywhere. But I don't look at this as a subdivision. I look at this as a father and a parent wanting to give land to their son. To me, that's not a subdivision, that's the home front. And so, I think it is special circumstances, and I think it is to be able to enjoy that land that's in the family. So, that's how I don't really feel like subdivision laws, and I know it's really a subdivision, but I don't really think it applies to a father or a family trying to give land to their children to build a home.
I also don't think this piece of this parcel, as it is, really lends itself to being cut up into a lot of little pieces. Just the nature, the size of it, and the orientation of it, it wouldn't look like a brown one to try to get and then have all your setbacks and everything and still have reasonable lot sizes. And to the point that none of it hurts except one little section.
What I'm hearing is what we said, well, seem to be in favor of this.
I'm sorry?
I said, what I'm
There's no
hearing-
motion, yeah.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Well,
Oh,
I
you
have
gotta
a
be
question
very careful about the motion.
before we make the motion.
Okay.
Do we need to go through all five findings of the fact?
I would recommend affirmatively finding in favor of each one of those.
Where are those? I didn't see them.
They're on page 16.
16.
You have the whole packet.
Love that government right there.
So all five of them?
That's
Okay,
correct.
I'll make a motion that there are special circumstances and conditions affecting this property modification of the provisions of this chapter will not deprive the applicant of the reasonable use of his or her land.
So there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Make a motion that we approve based on modifications necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right of the petitioner.
Is there a second? Second. All right. Deb, you have that one? All in favor?
Make a motion that we approve due to the circumstances giving rise to the need for modifications are particular to the parcel and are not generally characteristic of other parcels in the jurisdiction of this chapter.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Make a motion we approve the granting of the modification will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare, or injurious to the property and the territory which said property is situated.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
And finally, I make a motion that we approve based upon the modification will not vary the provisions of chapter 156 of this code of ordinances applicable to the property.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? And then, would you need a motion to approve with the conditions imposed upon?
Yeah, you can grant the modifications applied for, with the supplemental conditions that were submitted by the applicant in the addendum, if those suit your,
Look at what I just said.
you can refer to them, sure.
Okay. So motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Anything else?
Behind the trees.
I will, thank
And
you.
the bees.
And the bees.
Absolutely.
Good luck.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so that leads us to the public hearing for subdivision modification 2024-02. I will open the public hearing for this parcel pertaining to 5413 Hudson Road. If you plan to speak during this, I have Jeff Merritt and Randy Polk signed up to speak, so if you will come up and be sworn in. Anybody who wants to speak?
We will be.
Okay. You both have to be sworn in.
Right hand in the air, not the wrong one. Dawn, do you need to do this again?
I'm good.
Are you guys speaking?
Yes.
I think you have to switch hands.
Right hand. Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
I do. Thank you.
You have all their names.
What?
Claire
We should-
Nancy?
We need to make sure that we just make sure we get everybody's names as we're doing it, so for Kathy's rectification.
Can you give those to me?
We can do it when they go to speak.
Okay.
Gotcha. Thank you, Vaughn.
That will keep
We'll
them
state your
order.
name and your address when you come to speak, okay?
Okay, so this is application for subdivision modification, parcel located at 5413 Hudson Church Road, Union County, parcel 06021004. The owners and prospective purchasers of the parcel located at 5413 Hudson Church Road have applied for a modification of the subdivision ordinance requirements of sections 155.074B and 155.192B1. The first reference section of the ordinance requires a minimum 3-acre lot size and 300-foot lot width for parcels in residential zoning districts created by a process other than a major subdivision. The second section requires that parcels not having frontage on a street have a minimum 3-acre lot size. The applicants have submitted a proposed subdivision plat for the 4.4-acre parcel that would divide the property into 3 parcels with two newly created lots not having direct road frontage. All 3 would be served by a single driveway access point on Hudson Church Road. Each of the proposed lots would meet the underlying R40 zoning requirements for lot area and setbacks. If subdivided as proposed, the applicants would also be required to secure access to the public wastewater system due to the lack of suitable soils for on-site septic systems. Per the applicant, they have initiated the process with Union County and begun working on that process to extend wastewater system and construct the necessary improvements to service that property. Again, these standards were amended in the subdivision ordinance in October 2023 by the Village Council in furtherance of the 2050 Comprehensive Plan's intended goal of maintaining the rural character of the village by limiting the creation of relatively small parcels along the village's highway and farm market road network. Current standards also intended to limit the creation of a large number of individual driveway access points along the road network and to discourage residential development that is not required to meet the same infrastructure, tree preservation, and related requirements that apply to major subdivisions. The planning board did review this at its previous meeting, and the results of that were communicated to the applicant in preparation for this meeting. And again, this is a quasi-judicial hearing for the village council. The same standards that were used in the last one to determine whether a modification should be granted, of course, apply to this one. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. The applicant is here this evening to speak. Yes, sir.
First question was, you said, would you talk about the water and sewer? It's been applied for, but
The applicant can fill you in on more details. My understanding, they have been working with Union County to design a sewer extension to serve the property.
I don't want to go through all this, and the county's just going to say no.
I agree.
All right, so whoever wants to speak first, come up and state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Good evening, guys. I'm Samantha Berg. I have been living in Wesley Chapel for 40 years, and funny enough, Michael and I actually went to Weddington together. The other person who was doing his subdividing, and 40 years ago, I guess things looked a lot different here. It was farmland and no target, and I didn't even know we had to go about coming up here to subdivide a piece of property that we wanted to build on. But I do have some paperwork. I couldn't get it to you guys in time, but I wanted to. And unfortunately, it's not on the 11 by 14 paper, but
I'll put my blessing.
okay. I did make the font pretty big and the photos. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
So in case you guys didn't have a chance to go and see the property, it's off the secondary road off of Waxhaw Indian Trail. Hudson Church Road is basically a 1.5 lane road. It's not a yellow line road, and it dead ends. And I believe there's a 20-year plan for the easement that's back there to maybe extend into Tanyard near Sun Valley. Essentially, I kind of wanted to paint a picture of the property so you can kind of understand. The front part of Hudson Church Road is a lot of the rural homes that Vaughn mentioned. In the back of Hudson Church Road is a $1 million neighborhood, Anniston Grove, which I currently reside in today, and Addington Crossing, which is across the street from the proposed property. I put together, again, some visuals just to kind of give you an idea. It is at a dead end. There's not a lot of traffic back there. Addington Crossing does not have a cut-through. It's two separate phases, one at the end of Hudson Church and one off Potter Road. So there's only 18 houses that are serviced in Addington Crossing today. So again, the traffic's pretty minimal on that road. We are planning to, well, first off, Exhibit A, I think I already gave you, is my love letter. Y'all can read that later about my community and what I want to do for my home here. But Exhibit B with the photos on page 2 is going to showcase a little bit about the current driveway. So you come off of Hudson Church Road, and you go narrow to the left a little bit straight ahead to the dwelling that exists there today. If you make the left, it's kind of a fork there. You see the pathway that I'm showing here. That's an existing road. The one that has the picket fence in the front, that's what we want to use as our private drive to service lots 1, 2, and 3. And that one's image 4. And that driveway actually extends all the way to the back of the property of the 4.4 acres. So we wanted to kind of convert or formalize that into the drive for the acreage. To Mike's point, Exhibit C, have already been speaking with Crystal Panko with the county for the new development for the sewer access. So we've actually engaged with Lawrence Engineering and with the state utility contractor. Essentially, the star on Exhibit C shows you the manhole 31 that's on Gramercy Drive, which is across the street from the property at Hudson Church Road. We would bore through Hudson Church Road and approximately have about 500 to 600 feet of sewer line reaching to Lot 3 on the proposed site sketch. That has already been submitted and evolved with the county, and we've already gone through phase 1. We're on phase 2 for the sewer. Essentially, we were quoted $90,000 to get the sewer line ran, and $22,000 for engineering. So for this to be economical for us, and we obviously need to be able to put at least 2 homes on this property. Essentially, to kind of give you a backstory, not necessarily pulling your heartstrings, but the dwelling that is on the front of the property is for a man named Howard Thacker. He is a veteran. He currently lives in his RV because his home is too run down. And you can see in the pictures in Exhibit D that there is a lot of, the MLS says itself that it's potential tear down, but he's got the property, a little bit in despair. There's appliances, there's sheds that are torn down, there's all kinds of trash, and, we want to clean all that up. And we've already engaged with Howard. We want to offer him to help renovate the home on the first part of the property and allow us, myself and my family, to put the 2 homes on the back part of the parcel. My parents are getting older. I'd like to have them close by and also land for arm's reach. But also to be able to help a friend and a veteran get him back in his home and, beautify what is not necessarily beautiful today. Get everything, cleaned up. And obviously we want to put some homes that are consistent with the nearby neighboring neighborhoods. $1 million neighborhood nearby and $700,000 neighborhood across the street. We're in the back half of the road where if we put a $700,000 to $1 million home, it's going to fit the aesthetic versus what it appears today. I know it's a tight stretch because I'm asking for 3 and not 2 lots, but we would really be grateful to be able to have our home there, help Mr. Thacker and my parents on the property.
So what size will the lots be?
So the first property is going to be right at 1 acre, lot 1. Lot 2 is sitting at about 1.3, and lot 3 is the largest acre. It is about 1.6. So lot 1 obviously has a dwelling on it today and a pond. And we don't know a whole lot about the septic system because it wasn't recorded with the county. So our idea is if we do sewer, we will attach sewer to all 3 homes. Lot 1, 2, and 3. And lot 2, which is the middle parcel, is already cleared. So I know, I didn't see your name, Deb, you were worried about the trees. There's not any trees on that property. The furthest property does have some trees that we would obviously have to take some down from, to build the property, but in keeping everything, that's important to us, is to have, living here for so long, seeing everything evolve and change. We want to keep with what you guys are striving for, to make everything look still aesthetically pleasing, but keep with the spirit and intent that you guys are after as well.
So if I'm, there's not just a whole center in the back there, but I've been back there and I know the property you're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
If you were to keep going, because you mentioned an extension into 10-year road, is this back up to where McCoy Farms or whatever the name of it is? It doesn't go that far to that?
This goes into some farmland.
It goes too off the map. So is it leaving like an island?
It's the area back there, if you recall from the future land use map, there's some very large parcels in that area that there's a stream running through it, and we designated that area actually for like rural use, kind of east, after the east of where Hudson Church Road currently ends, because the access to it at this time is extremely limited.
Yeah, the only people that go down Hudson Church Road typically are the ones that live on it, yeah. It's not a whole lot of traffic, yeah. I know that was a mouthful, and I know I gave you a lot of information that you guys have to obviously digest. I just want you guys to know that it's coming from a good place. We're not wanting to change what you guys want for this community. I've been in this community for so long, and I've seen the changes, and I think you guys are doing a great job. I didn't realize you could buy land and not do whatever you wanted to with it. But,
Only in Texas.
right? My parents, obviously, we grew up, around here, lived in Rose Hill, a few other areas. And I like to have them close. I'm an only child, and I'm probably going to be the one that's taking care of them, so I like the idea of having them on the property with me. They're both retired right now. And then I have to get super personal into it. My dad's done a really good job of schooling my 8-year-old with go-karts and all the things that we can't do necessarily in our neighborhood today. He was diagnosed last year with a brain tumor, and they thought it was DIPG, which is like a 6-month trajectory to live, and come to find out they were incorrect. So we spent a month in New York getting that resected this past summer, and quite honestly, if it's opened our minds to just the family unit, and he's doing great, and they've given him a long time to live, but it was a lot for us, and I think we want to be together, and that's, I think, what we can accomplish here if you guys let us.
So you said you're gonna, the first lot, the gentleman lives there, you're gonna update his home and upgrade it and whatever. And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
the second lot, you would be building your home.
Yes.
And the third lot, you'd be building a home for your parents?
Yes, my mom and dad will be on the property with us, yes.
Okay.
Yep, so that's what the 3 lots are for. Our friend veteran who currently owns the property, myself and my husband and my 2 kids, and then my mom and dad.
The main reason we have these rules that we have for building and developing that you were aware of, there's a difference between use and abuse. Because some developers come to us and they just want to abuse the land. They want to abuse what it's like, whatever I can do to make the most money, however many houses I can squeeze over this lot.
Right.
And you're not doing that.
Right.
So I appreciate that.
And ultimately, I think, from a return on investment, we're willing to not wait the 3 years to put the sewer in. I've already talked to Crystal. Obviously, we're going to be funding that up front, and as soon as we get the approval, because they're not on a moratorium right now, that we will move forward with getting ahead and getting our homes built, not waiting 2 or 3 years where it ends up being a capacity issue. But what we put together there is the easement that I flagged in one of the exhibits. We've had our surveyor go out there because we'll have to turn that over to a public utility easement. And we're willing to, like I said, I have friends and neighbors all in Aniston Grove to put up privacy or whatever is needed to make sure that we can keep everyone happy. And we're not here to, like I said, to destroy anything or to make, to turn, ruffle any feathers, but if we need to put in, again, some privacy and obviously bring things back to the current condition they were, we can certainly do that.
And Paul, let me ask again, just with this one, that we notify the adjacent neighbors,
That's correct.
and to what's the bubble on that? What's the
Immediately adjacent.
immediately adjacent? So we didn't contact any of the non-adjacent properties. I thought it was a distance, not a touch. Are the rules different for a subdivision versus a division of a?
Well, this is just being a quasi-judicial hearing. We notify immediately adjacent people due to the presumption of their having standing in the matter.
And the way it's situated, you're going to turn right into Addington Crossing or you pass Addington. And it's just kind of back there by itself. So you mentioned that you want to subdivide it into 2 separate lots. So once your parents are no longer with us, what's your plan? Would you sell that lot or?
So going back a little bit with the diagnosis with my son, he has an endocrine issue and he probably will just live like with us, around us. Not to get too deep into it, but like he, obviously he's doing great at school and everything, but he's, going to have to probably be close by.
Because I was wondering, you mentioned a number of things, if you had considered making those conditions for approval, like you had mentioned, like privacy, the sewer line, the building for the easements, et cetera, to make it more acceptable
Yes, ma'am.
to deviate from that ordinance. Did you make any recommendations recommendations for potential conditions for?
I think the one that I would be most concerned about would just be ensuring that the construction of the sewer line was going to be feasible before the parcels were subdivided, because what we don't like ending up with are parcels that you can't build on, right? And so the parcel as it is can be built on, not very much from what I understand.
Oh, it didn't perk at all,
Yeah.
either one of those lots back there. Connie Adams, the soil scientist, came out there and she gave us denial letters for both.
And
So essentially that land, that land is, we need sewer regardless. But there is an order of operations to all of this for sure.
And so we would want there to be, I would want there to be, in general, and this is what I recommend whenever I really speak to anybody that's wanting to subdivide properties, that, do you have either your on-site wastewater approved, or can you hook into sewer? And so it would be, I think it's prudent on everyone's part, just to make sure that the parcels don't get subdivided prematurely before there's some greater amount of guarantee that the sewer can be.
Well, that was my exact point. Are we doing the cart before the horse here?
So how do we go about that?
Getting the sewer,
To say that, so that she knows that she's gonna go and invest all this money to do the sewer for that in some way that's
Yeah,
gonna be aligned with a future approval?
the county will issue an approval to construct the improvement, and I believe the state actually has to issue a similar approval as well, and they have to get an encroachment agreement with NCDOT to go underneath the road. There's a lot of, I think we would want some evidence of approval of the sewer.
That's fair.
So we have the option of making it a conditional approval.
Well, it's approved, and you could just say that the property cannot be subdivided until such time as the sewer line extension has been approved.
Because I understand not wanting to spend that kind of money and then turn around and find out you can't do anything with it once you spend the money. But at the same time, like you said, the cart before the horse. Normally, before things like this come to us, all that's already been figured out.
Well, if you know my dad, then he's not gonna let me spend anybody's money or my own money unless I know that we can get, and I hear where you guys are coming from, but also on my end, knowing that if the subdivision is a possibility, that leads us to being able to go ahead and sign, additional engagements, move forward with the project, because this was a component that allows us to move forward as well.
This is a little bit different than saying, usually a large subdivision, like, we'll get some, we encourage people to get some assurances from Union County before moving along, and I think the situation's a little bit different here because the proposed division of land doesn't require the same kind of machinations to go through to get the subdivision actually completed, other than having to get really the wastewater extended to be able to get permits for the houses that we go there at some point in the future.
So we already went through the first phase with, in the eval system with Union County, and have already gotten our first round of notes back, so they want us to make some slight adjustments. Originally, obviously, you can see on our site sketch that's probably very pertinent that we put where the sewer line is going to be. So the engineer obviously is working on getting the sewer line component there. There's already water on that side of Hudson Church Road. So water and sewer eventually, obviously, is kind of where we're planning. But yes, the first round, and then again, I have all the notes from. It was already approved by the fire marshal. It's been waiting on wastewater based on where the sewer lines and any of the existing septic systems are currently on the property. And then obviously water and sewer to approve it based on where the sewer lines are drawn on the site.
Did the county sound like they were, amenable to your request?
Oh, absolutely. Like they, pretty quickly, I submitted all of my paperwork probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I've already gotten my first round of comments back. I will be honest with you guys, it's probably a 4-month process when it comes to engineering, making sure that all their, T's are crossed and I's are dotted. But as far as you guys can probably see, when it comes to taking action and trying to do my homework and getting things done, I'm pretty good at that. That can't help the timeline the county does, and I've worked with the county on several occasions, and they can be pretty quick or they can be really slow. But they seem to, and I believe based on when I spoke to Crystal, she's at an 89% capacity, which based on that information, we should be able to, in the next 6 months, get sewer. If not, then we basically go on a waiting list if they do go on to a moratorium. So I want to be transparent about that as well. But she did have high hopes for us.
You know, I think it would be more helpful to actually have any and all conditions written out before we would consider approving anything.
But if she, is there
Just
any
for
way,
clarity and, you know, lack of, I mean, for transparency and everything else, so it's just document what it is that we consider the conditions, much like we had on the prior one, which said, hey, these are the conditions that we are agreeing to. I mean, I understand the family situation and all. It's kind of like in the middle of a weird little area that, you know, I do think about the other development around it as that starts coming, the tide's gonna get in there, or if there is a thoroughfare that comes through in some eternity. But, kind of to the point of the septic, putting up privacy, and I personally just think it would have those conditions documented
That's fair.
would be more helpful for us as we consider approval.
The only two conditions are just those, right? Privacy and, I guess the conditions that sewer be granted. If sewer is not granted, of what value is this going to be to the applicant? I mean, to me, that sounds like a good point.
So if sewer wasn't granted, would you move forward?
No. Obviously, and you guys know this, and I'm not going to use any swearing words or anything, but you have to have a place to be able to go to the bathroom. You can't do that, you can't build a house, and it's not really usable land at that point, right? So yeah, to us, it's, and that's why we're willing to put in the investment to put in the sewer. And all areas around this area already are tapped into sewer. So, and having the accessibility across the street, based on using the state utility contractor, following the Union County guidelines and rules, that done a little bit of the digging and homework on that. We seem to be teed up and geared up to be able to move forward in getting the sewer. But again, we're not going to be cutting trees and breaking ground if we can't put any type of system in. Because again, we have no other options. Septic is not an option.
Right. And as far as the privacy fence, if you look at the current property condition, I think anything would be to what is shown in here.
It's not that we don't trust you, it's just that you can say a lot of things that don't have
Well, and I think to be
weight.
transparent too, I live in Aniston Grove today. So the neighborhood that's nearby there, I have a lot of friends and neighbors. They would not be very happy with me if I didn't do right by them anyway. So, and that is most definitely part of our plan. Like, we love the people that are in that neighborhood. We want to still be nearby them. My son's got tons of friends that he would be devastated if we had to move out of there, which is why the only reason this property would be the one that would be of interest to us. But yes, we would definitely make it right. And whatever conditions you guys put forth, we would, uphold those on our end. No doubt.
I don't see putting a lot of conditions on you personally. I think you're willing to take the risk. It's a risk you're taking, not us. You do it at your own demise. I'm not going to argue back. I let stupid people do stupid stuff all the time. I'm not going to get in the way. And I'm not.
Oh, I'm very convincing.
I don't want to be that big government thing that says, oh, you can't do that, because that's just not in my personal nature.
Oh, yeah, there is.
As long as you're willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Sometimes you have to take risks to get that big reward at the end. So we're willing to do that.
Any questions for this resident before we call it the other?
Yes.
George, anything from a legal perspective?
Nope, you can, as Vaughn Ron said, if you guys want to impose those conditions and they're willing to accept them, then you can move forward with that this evening if you wanted to.
Well, we got other people supposed to hear.
No, I think that's what you were asking, right, Mike?
So there, do you have a question?
Ms. Berg, on exhibit B, image 2, appears to be a spur, a road spur right here. You know where that is planned to go to? Have you
That
seen
is,
this one?
that's the dead end road we were talking about, that was moved to potentially, I think a 20-year plan or 10-year, I'm not exactly sure.
Addington Crossing dedicated a right-of-way across the northern part of their property to extend Hudson Church Road. The extended right-of-way goes into a farm field now.
So it'll be this.
That looks right, yeah.
Yeah.
I got this. So basically, Extra Gross would be a loop on Hudson Church.
Well, it would continue on, it would go east of the property and,
So if this is Gramercy, this is the property here. So this easement goes along Addington Crossing, which is here. Essentially, I think they were not going to have a cul-de-sac here, and they were going to connect, so people had secondary or exits out of the neighborhood, but they didn't. I think that's what he was trying to say.
it will be some time before that road is extended.
And to be clear, I will clarify my statements. I did not mean, and hope you didn't
Oh,
infer
gosh.
that,
Yeah.
what I said was, I want you to be able to do what you want to do, and I don't think in any way, shape, or form, you're setting your street.
Listen, I worked in HR for 12 years. You cannot hurt my feelings. I have let people go, and I've heard way worse than that. You're
I'm
just
sure
not.
I'll be getting, so we tap you on the shoulder after thinking, hey, you were talking about that. No.
No. I'm all about tough and fair. I came up here, tried to be fully loaded in what I had provided, and I hope that kind of painted the picture for you guys. It is going to be, I hope it all works out, but I do need you guys to be able to offer us a subdivide to be able to make that next step.
Any more questions for her before we call the next two people?
Can we do is it feasible for us to approve it in conditions that contingent on the water sewer? Okay.
All right, so let's call up the other two people. We have Jeff Merritt.
Thanks, guys.
Jeff Marriott, 1404 Carrington Way,
Okay.
where my house is right on the long stretch of that property. And there's basically got 3 lots there that, I'm the middle one, that owns that area. And that's a rural farm, that's a horse farm. Used to be a horse farm until they got rid of it, didn't take care of it. So for this property to be developed, it would definitely ruin the whole rural farm look and aesthetics. You wouldn't have 3 acres, you'd have split separate lots. I'm here to oppose this. I never liked it, the whole idea to begin with. If they want to replace Howard's house, build another house and have a horse farm, that'd be great. But that's not what's going to go on. And I have no privacy from that area. It's totally open.
Can you show on this map here, more specifically, you're located?
Look at my boss. I'll check that and see if you get. Okay,
So
let's
it's
see.
getting old.
It does. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out what's what here. This is the,
Those spurs right here.
okay, so basically, this is his property right here. I'm right here. So, there's 3 lots here, on this lot here. This lot's empty. Randy's this lot here, and then there's a pond here. A little retention pond for our development. So there's a little dirt road right here in the fence. It reaches back.
All right, clarifying that.
So the back of your lot would be adjacent to
Yes, ma'am.
lot 2, basically, that she's proposing. This is you, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And your house faces in which direction from it? So it's the back of your lot?
Back in the house. Yep.
Okay.
Yes. And your trees are getting thinner and thinner every time we have a good windstorm. They're all pine trees, but
So your basic concern is that it's not in keeping with the rural aesthetic, and that, what previously you just had vacant land behind you is now going to be developed property.
that's correct. It doesn't meet the 3-acre lot size and aesthetics, the rural aesthetics.
So he lives here. And this is what they want to do.
So you're on Terragon Way?
Tarrington.
Tarrington.
Yes, that's correct.
Tarrington. So you're on the cul-de-sac?
Yes. Well, Randy's actually the first house on the cul-de-sac, and I'm the next house up.
You're between the, you're right on the pond?
He's beside the pond and I'm beside him. And then on the other side of me is an empty lot that is going to be developed, built on some century.
Because that pond or empty lot's actually the common area for that subdivision.
Yes, it is. That was one of the 2 retention ponds they had to build just beside Randy's house.
Any further questions before we call up the next speaker? The next speaker is Randy Hall.
Randy, I want to ask where you are because I can see it on the map.
Yeah, I'm actually right very next to the end of the cul-de-sac. And, yeah, my concern too would be, you know, the amount of construction that would be going on, you know, disrupting, I don't know how much disruption it would be, how long it would take. And the sewer line being extended across from Eddington Cross, or Eddington, not sure how that would work out as far as maybe closing that road off, so I don't know how people would get in and out of it. I don't know about that part of it, so. And like Jeff said, I bought the house for that rural setting, and not sure how dividing that up may affect my property value, is the other concern I might have, so.
How old is your house or your son?
I moved in there in 2007.
And you're in Anderson Grove?
Yes. Yep, I'm one of the first people that's moved in there.
So your concerns are during the period of disruption, the uncertainty around the sewer line extension,
Yep.
and the
Changing that rural setting as well.
on your property values and set.
All right, any questions for this gentleman before we call the next speaker?
Is the proposed driveway, and I'm not sure who I should be asking this for, is it right up against the property line or is it into the property?
I can answer that. So there's a 30-foot easement that's going to be behind Tarrington Way property line.
Is that represented by this fence line?
It's actually probably better to look at the site sketch that you guys got from Walter. Yes. I'm not sure, do you have it on your iPad, the one that was submitted originally? This one, yes. So this first, the county requires us to have a 40-foot utility, or 30-foot utility easement to get the machinery in there, and then you actually, they'll take over like 15 to 20 feet of the easement with the public sewer. This is the easement right here that's up against the property line. Mind you, there's already a sewer line over here by that retention pond. We couldn't tap into that sewer because when you have low, sewer doesn't work well with the low gravity. So with a pond, stuff doesn't go up. So we couldn't get to that sewer line, so we had to go to the one across the street. But essentially, there's going to be 30 feet here and an additional 20 foot of that private drive that we'll be using as the driveway. And again, happy to put any type of privacy along either one, either on our property between the easement and the driveway, or behind the properties before the easement to make everyone happy on that.
So You have not already purchased this property, this parcel.
It's contingent, yes.
So contingent upon you getting approval to subdivide.
And yes, to be able to move forward with the sewer, correct. And we have extended our due diligence period, obviously, because we are friends with Howard. So he's built in a lot of time for us to be able to do the things that we need to do, because he doesn't want us to get stuck either. Like, we're not going to lose a whole bunch of money on.
Is this what that area looks like right now?
That would be where the drive is, yes. So there's actually, this would be the driveway that we're going to be utilizing. The piece that I kind of showcased here, that's also the driveway here. The fence line is not the true fence line on the property. I'm going to show you on mine real quick.
It feels really weird, you're kind of like, am I on somebody's property? Or is this only a road?
I want to show you this.
And the reason I'm asking these questions is I think it's important that we respect the neighbors' buffering and visual aesthetics from their home.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why we're totally willing to do the private. I'm trying to find. Where is the third one? That's B, B, C. I can hear it on this one. So if you look on Exhibit C, there's a flag marker on, here we go. Exhibit C, I think it's like the third or fourth page, there's a white box. Okay, so the driveway that we just saw is over near where the garbage pails are, the blue garbage pails right here.
Yeah.
The white flag marker is where the property starts. So the 30-foot is going to be between the driveway and that white mark right there.
But that's going to be torn up for the sewer easement?
Well, they have to be able to get in there and put the sewer in, yes. But not all of it was all tree line like that. But a lot of, like, in the front has more trees, the back, to the gentleman's point, is not as many trees, it's a little bit more open.
Okay.
And then obviously we have to abide by the setbacks from the driveway and whatnot with the county. So there'll be a pretty significant amount of land between the homes still.
Can you do me a favor?
Yes.
Can you kind of draw where you're planning to build and sort of just a general, because are you saying you're going to be building back in here,
So this is the actual parcel right here.
right?
So this is where they're going to be bringing the sewer from the manhole 31. These are going to be the parcels. So you should have, Vaughn, did you send them the plat, the site sketch?
Yeah, we have it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's,
So this one is not the one. The one that has, yes, that's going to show Howard's existing home. And then our buildable land is going to be in between these easements. Do you have that one?
yeah, I know.
If not, I can use mine. Yes, perfect. So this is the first house. This one's Howard's house. And then we obviously have to abide by the setbacks here. So this would actually be my parents'. Theirs is going to be a small one-story ranch, probably in the 7 to 100 range. Pretty aesthetically pleasing, the white with the black, whatever is in right now. Mine's going to be 1.5. I think hers is going to be close to 3,500 square feet, nothing substantial. Mine's probably going to be closer to the 4,000, 4,200 square foot one, on the bigger lot.
And where do they live? They live way back here?
They live up here. So Marriott lives here and Randy lives here. So it'd be in between these two lots right here.
So really nothing's changing for them here.
This is, so this is getting, we're going to renovate it, yep.
And then this is,
Yep, then we're going to take all the trash off the property, because right now that is in their view.
Thank you for clarifying that. One question, since you left the podium, one thing I want to clarify. Is your main objection the visual effects of the development, or is there something other than the visual?
I guess my other concern would be, if they decided to, like put up some kind of privacy wall, I don't want to be looking at a privacy fence. Right now, there's just kind of an old, like a wooden and wire fence, and that's, kind of fits in with the country atmosphere, so to speak. And I don't know where the houses would be either, so I don't want to be looking out my back screen porch and look at 3 different houses.
So it looks like there's going to be the property line of buffer screening the road, and then the houses, or the lots for the houses.
Right, and then the road, I'm not sure whether the road would be, but right now there's a road that runs right along the property line
Yeah, but
behind
that's,
us, so.
from what we were just looking at, that's not where the driveway is gonna be, it's more in line of where the easement is gonna be,
Okay.
so.
And then I know one more person was sworn in.
So, back up.
And
Right. So, anybody wants to speak on behalf of this application? Very
Can I make-
modification.
Can I make one quick comment?
Sure.
The state utility contractor says that we can bore through under Hudson Church Road in 1 day, and he has given us a timeline of 2 weeks for the sewer install. That was based on our communication that we had together. So I didn't know if that made a difference, but I know that he was concerned about construction and things like that. I can't say how long it's going to take to build a house, but I do know that information about the permit.
So 1 day or 2 weeks sewer?
Yes, ma'am.
I think your neighbor's concern about the visual effects on their property is valid. If you're saying officially that you're willing to add screening, whether it's vegetative screening or a berm or both or a fence or something, I think that's something I would like to.
Well, from what she just showed me, the only home that's going to be visible to you folks is the mother's home, and that's a one-level ranch.
Actually, I can see that entire property on the back of my house, one end to the other.
Because it was farmland, pasture land,
There's-
which is why it was.
It's wide open.
All right, so anybody else want to speak? Any more questions before I close the public hearing? Because after that, no more questions.
I think I know the answer, but we cannot ask about the deliberations that took place at the planning board. When they heard this,
Well, yeah, I mean, they deliberated about it.
But it's not for us.
okay,
It's not sworn testimony. They're not
It's
here.
not for us.
understood.
So any further questions before I close the public hearing, and you can't ask questions?
And did you figure out where on the lots the houses would be?
Mm-hmm.
Is it more towards the?
This is the house that I'm right now. These guys are right here. This is the mother's home, and that's her.
All right, so if no further questions, I will close the public hearing and close the public hearing and ask council to comment, deliberate, talk.
Well, one of the things about it is east of this parcel is undeveloped land, so at some point, somebody will probably come in and want to develop that. So that, those 3 houses go in, and that's something similar to what everybody else is facing.
I think that property,
In an area like this, living beside undeveloped land is a,
And I have the exact situation you did. Behind me, they never decided to sell. I don't know what to do there. You know, I look out into a field behind my house and I can't get it.
And what is the current zoning of the property?
It's R40.
R40?
I used to live in a field.
Well, I like the idea of the improvements that are going to be made to the property, but I also think the neighbors have a valid concern with the visual aspect of this. If the applicant is willing to take the risk, basically, to improve the sewer line and everything else, and also stipulate that they're willing to do adequate screening for the concerns of the neighbors, I'm more opposed to approve than deny.
And I think at the end of the day, October to try to maintain the larger parcels.
Again, you know, when I think of a subdivision, I think of at least 5 to 10 homes. I don't think of 2 homes, and that's basically what we're talking about here because,
But the ordinance was about the size of those parcels,
yeah.
to keep them at 3 acres, to keep more of that rural feel. And, you know, so we've had 2 tonight who basically want to carve up to 1 acre lot.
But they want 1 acre per house. I mean, they're not going below 1 acre.
I'm just saying, I am worried about the conflict with the ordinance we revised and the comp plan.
Vaughn, I can ask you a question, right?
Sure.
With the strict rules. If I am looking at because Aniston Grove is unincorporated in Union County, correct? So, this land is Wesley Chapel. So the land on the other side, what's this land? Is it Wesley Chapel?
It's not,
So we only have this one piece that's Wesley Chapel?
it's not, well,
No. How did that happen? He annexed it.
yeah, it's in town back behind there, yeah.
This is Wesley Chapel?
Mhm.
And it's R40?
Mhm. It's just big open land, it's farm.
It's really not that far from McCoy Farms when you kind of do the aerial of it, but they're a little further south and back, but it all kind of opens up to this one common big wooded area with a few things dropped in there.
I see it's owned by property, an LLC.
Well, they also own the property at the end up here.
Yeah, north of this property.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Aniston Grove, that's unincorporated in Union County, is it, I'm assuming it's R20?
I wouldn't have the foggiest.
Hold on, Google. It doesn't say that anymore.
That's on the block.
They're not part of Anchor.
So we're talking about,
Or those two.
we're talking about a 3 parcel piece of property divided up into 1.5 acre plots that's adjacent to the community that has less than 1 acre plots.
It's 4.4 acres the whole.
So
The parcel's on Carrington Way, about 4/10 of an acre, give or take.
You said what of an acre?
4/10, around 17,000 square feet.
Carrington?
While council thinks I really, really, really need a 5-minute restroom break, I'm playing poorly. So if we could take a 5-minute recess, it is 8:45, and come back at 8:50, I'd greatly appreciate that. Thanks. So council, over to your discussion. Don't act like
I've said my piece.
Yeah, well, again, this goes with the families and the look at the property, according to these pictures, anything can be done to be an improvement. I'm not sure I would, I mean, it looks like they're using them as a trash dump right now. But, I think if I would be willing to support this contingent on getting the sewer approval. And I think that it'd be better to do that now as opposed to later, because that might help the county make their decision.
Yeah, I have no problem doing that, provided the applicant's willing to take the risk.
Yeah, my concern is that it is basically going to kind of go against everything they're trying to do with the rezoning thing. No objection to the purpose of what she's trying to accomplish and the improvements that it would make. It's basically what it would be, and we heard two contradictory things in terms of, hey, I have a nice open view now, and if we say we want to put any type of screening or anything, then it's like, oh, you have a fence that you don't have on the land, or you have open land, or whatever. So that would make it more difficult, if approved, to come to an agreement of what should lie between the driveway and the property line.
I think going back to what you said earlier, Councilwoman Bailey, is that there really are no guarantees
No.
to undeveloped property, what may take place later. So,
Like I said, I'm more concerned about what called in the comprehensive plan, we were trying to retain those larger tracts of open land. And granted, the size of these, the size houses on them, they're still going to be pretty open land, especially compared to a subdivision with
Right.
less than half acre lots, so.
Quarter acre.
I agree. To that end, I recommend that we grant a modification to that there are special circumstances or conditions affecting said property, such that the strict application of the provisions of this ordinance would not deprive the applicant of the reasonable use of his land.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Make a motion that we grant the modification and that the modification is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right of the petitioner.
Second. Any further
We just
discussion?
dropped the whole thing about any conditions.
That will be the last thing, if we follow
Okay.
what we just did.
We didn't skip that.
So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Conditions being added on at the end. Okay, all in favor?
Make a motion that we grant the modification and that the circumstances given rise to the need for the modification are particular to the parcel and not generally characteristic of other parcels in the jurisdiction of this ordinance.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Make a motion that we grant the modification and that the granting of the modification would not be detrimental to the public health, safety, welfare, or injures to other property in the territory in which said property is situated.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
And finally, make a motion that we grant the modification and that the modification will not vary the provisions of the Village of Wilson Chapel zoning ordinance that is applicable to this property.
And contingent on the sewer.
So that's going to be a next
Oh,
one.
okay. Gotcha. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? And now, if you want to put conditions upon the granting the modification, now is your time.
Okay. I'm going to leave that up to council because, again, I see no need for condition on the sewer because if the sewer does not happen, there's of no value. That's a moot point. And secondly, there's a 30-foot right-of-way, a 30-foot area between the property line and the driveway that can be used for buffering.
I think-
Should the applicant decide.
I do think we should have a condition, just a CYA kind of thing, about the sewer approval and capacity, just to advise that nothing, that the property cannot be subdivided until that has been addressed or approved, I don't know how long I said it before. I do feel like addressing some sort of something in that buffer area, to truly treat it as a buffer and not to be developed on the other side of the driveway adjacent to his properties, I think would be smart.
However, if that's an easement,
If that's a sewer easement, then there will not be any vegetation taller than grass in it.
Yeah.
so it would have to be on the resident side, which is possible. up to council. Would you like to put on, we can go down the road, do you want to put on conditions? Yes or no?
I'm gonna put the burden on the applicant and not burden them with specific conditions on what the sewer is. They know the risk, if they want to accept it.
How about privacy?
Privacy, I'd like to see them do the best. I mean, a 30-feet buffer is pretty wide. 30 feet is longer than here to that door over there. A sewer line is this big. You need something as big as a truck to get it in and out. And then after that, no.
And Laura, you'd like to see the sewer condition? Anything else?
That'd be my preference to have, based on what you described, how she's gonna go, I trust that she's gonna do it. But as they say, smoke and mirrors and trust doesn't go very far when you're approving things that are gonna live in perpetuity. That's why I like to put it right.
I agree with Mike, and I also think that if there was one house being built here, would we be asking the same of the applicant?
Good point.
No.
Of the sewer, I would be.
I'm sorry, you're right. As far as the buffer.
She's buying the land contingent
Not
on the
the
sewer.
buffer, the privacy, I'm
Right.
sorry.
So, I mean, if she's not gonna buy the land unless they get the sewer, so I kind of agree with David, it's kind of a moot point.
And the thing about the privacy is that we've heard from other adjacent properties, and so, this body tends to vacillate sometimes of like, oh, we really worry about what adjacent properties think, and then we don't.
Did you just use the word vacillate?
Yes, I did.
I gotta look that one up. Sorry.
So, do we want to vote on whether we think it's important to have a contingency?
You just have to have consensus. Mike says no, Lori says privacy, yes or no?
Privacy, I can go either way, but definitely on the sewer, I'm pretty sure.
You say no on sewer, no on privacy?
No on privacy, no on sewer.
So I think you have your answer. So you just need to make a motion granting the modification, correct? With that paired with the,
I'll make a motion that we approve the applicant's application without the conditions we've discussed, and they do so at their own risk. And I would encourage the applicant to be good neighbors. I'll leave it at that.
so there's a motion, council?
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? That was unanimous. All right.
Was that an affirmative for Council Mayor Pro Tem Bailey? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that leads us to the street trees modification. Yvonne, I have a question when we go into all this. For the street trees, a question was asked prior to the meeting. We have two neighborhoods where street trees were a problem, right? Or one was, one is, right?
And one will be.
And one will be. So, does DOT have to approve the street trees? I think the question was, how do we keep this from happening again? And I know hopefully what we do tonight will keep it from happening again. But what is the process? We approve the plat, who looks at the trees by the road? Does the builder,
Theoretically, you're supposed to go get a roadside environmental planning permit before you do any planning inside of a right-of-way.
Okay, so the
But,
builder should get say that again?
a roadside environmental planning permit, one of the problems is until the final plat's approved, it's not public right-of-way yet. Which, can be a tricky distinction of differences of jurisdiction. It's not the NCDOT's road. And so getting a permit to plant, it's kind of hard to issue a permit to planting somebody's road that's not yours.
Ron, for clarity, can you explain to me, is this like between the sidewalk and the street?
Anywhere in the right of way. The right of way can be big. This all goes back to a desire by the village at a point in time to have very large trees in streets that were not very wide, in neighborhoods that didn't have particularly big trees, and the same standard was going to apply. And so oak trees started getting planted in planting strips this big. And that's just not, NCDOT doesn't accept any road like that. And there are many roads out there like that complied 100% with the village's requirements. And we need to change those requirements so that we don't run into this again. And we did with Heritage, the final phase. We went ahead and told them to abide by NCDOT's recommended planting list so that we had them change their planting plan, essentially, so they didn't go in with incompatible species. And so we've gone through this with the planning board, and they've made a recommendation of the species as proposed here to be amended in the zoning and subdivision ordinances. And so just at this point asking you to set a public hearing for your March meeting to consider approval of this, but happy to answer any questions you have.
So this will hopefully keep this problem from happening again.
Yeah, the ordinance today mandates the planting somewhat of trees that are not compatible with NCDOT's public street planting guidelines. I think some of it was people trying to comply with the replanting requirements for the tree save areas by planting 80-foot tall oak trees and small planting strips, and that just that's never going to work. I mean, it's just not going to work. So we have to, certainly address that a different way. But this just makes sure that we're all on the same page with what those street tree plantings can be. I think we're going to need to take a look at this some more and determine whether or not trees even need to go in the public right-of-way or not. Private street right-of-way is a little bit different story, but I don't know if we're going to get what we want out of trees going in public street rights-of-way based on the species that are permitted essentially to go.
It's almost like we should specify these species within each individual lot, not in the right-of-way. Because in the right-of-way, you've got the utilities and the road, it's just a lot of
Pinnacle,
things that
most
go
of the
into it.
trees went in on, the council at the time approved most of the trees going in on the lots. Very few were fortunately placed in the right-of-way. So there's much less of a problem there than anywhere else. But there's still a problem.
Is this more a species issue or a...
It's species just because of the height and the growth size of the trunks of the trees.
I know we looked at this about 6 or 7 years ago where new subdivision goes in, usually there's no overhead power lines in the subdivision along the property road. There's usually always a strip and then the trees are growing up into it.
The trees that get planted along like a buffer strip or something along the main road frontage, usually it's not a problem because those are typically sitting back outside of the right-of-way. We usually require some trees along the right-of-way there, and those can be smaller to go under power lines, but then you'll generally have an area of some width that you can preserve larger trees or plant larger trees or whatever the case might be. It's just in these new streets coming in, NCDOT doesn't want a particularly wide right-of-way, right? It's more land, more grass, more concrete, more asphalt, whatever for them to maintain. So narrow, comply with, make sure it's good street for fire apparatus, access. Besides that, it can be pretty narrow.
So my question is, are we overthinking this? Should we just say no trees on the right of way? If that gives
You certainly,
more problems.
We don't let people build in the right of way. whether it's a permanent structure or not. I mean, we have the whole gazebo issue that we ran into years ago, too close to the property line. So that's a very valid question.
The other consideration is if they're planted between a sidewalk and a road, somebody has to maintain them so that you can continue to walk under them. So they're, a lot of trimming the trees, it's growing, selective pruning, and, like cherry trees in particular aren't supposed to be pruned too much because it makes them ugly. So, there's considerations there.
Well, this is what started 6 or 7 years ago, the contract with the urban forester and the recommended invasive species versus approved species of trees. And I thought that handled the problem. You're telling me you still have
No, what I'm saying.
additional problem?
No, I'm just saying is just from a cherry tree, it's just the way they grow and stuff, is they can get kind of ugly when you start whacking on them.
That's where we had
And then
the,
even with the crepe
arborist.
myrtles or exfoliating trees, so you do have some maintenance on them.
I think part of the problem was that there was an approved list of tree species and without context as to what was appropriate for where, and then nobody talked to NCDOT, whose ultimate job it was to.
well, I don't consider anybody up here a tree expert. I consider it, that's why we hired an urban forester and we talked a lot with, did a lot of work on this with getting.
The trees that were planted are, if you have a adequately sized planting strip, are wonderful. I don't think anybody has any quibble with what was planted. It's just the NCDOT will not accept streets with them in it because of just the maintenance of them. Now, so in the Indian Trail, the portions of Heritage and Indian Trail, they have the exact same trees. But the town of Indian Trail, they're going to maintain the streets, and so the trees will stay.
And, it really sounds like it's another byproduct of a poorly written ordinance that no longer exists because we repealed it.
Yeah, I think this is heads above what we had previously about specifying everything else. We were getting realistic about the location, urban foresters input, and everything else.
So basically, all we have to do is call for a public hearing.
That's all you need to do tonight.
Do we have to have a motion for that?
Yes.
Motion we call for public hearing and have first reading.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
I'm relying on you, Deb, as the green person to dig deep.
We've got,
So that brings us to the stormwater item that David wanted to add, and Bob, I'll let you speak to that. I get my emails, but you're more informed about that.
Bonnie has been reviewing a request for qualifications that Union County will be putting out soon for someone to study a couple of very specific sections of the 12-mile creek system, including Molly Branch and then a northern portion of East Fork of 12-mile creek, to identify potential solutions to ongoing stormwater-related flooding issues in those very specific sections of the East Fork 12-mile creek basin, yes.
How often are the floodplain maps updated?
8-10 years, give or take. They had some public hearings last year about making some updates around here. I haven't heard another word about it. The change that was going to be coming in, I reviewed it online. It was like there was just some very small changes to the flood elevations in Wesley Chapel. We do not have very many houses that are in defined flood hazard areas.
Well, my follow-up question would be, if you build a structure and you say, I can build it here because it's not in the floodplain, then the floodplain changes and all of a sudden that structure is in the floodplain. What's the protocol, or the legal protocol? Do you have to tear the structure down? Do you have to accept that it's in the floodplain?
If you have a mortgage, you'll probably be required to get flood insurance. You can keep on living in your house as long as you don't experience a substantial loss that requires a substantial improvement, meaning 50% of the market value essentially, in one calendar year. Aside from that, you just, hope that you don't have anything happen. And buy flood insurance, and that's the number one thing anybody can do. And fortunately, since Wesley Chapel's in the National Flood Insurance Program, you can get subsidized flood insurance in Wesley Chapel. Because we enforce these ordinances and have, over the years, done a pretty good job of keeping stuff out of the floodplain. There's some houses, buildings, stuff like that. There's some stuff that I probably would rather have not been put in floodplain, like basically a dam across the East Fork of 12 Mile Creek at Potter's Trace, but...
So what's the ask of us tonight?
David wanted an update.
That is where we are. The Bonnies gave them some comments. I made a couple of very minor suggestions about the study. I'm not sure. It's back in the county's hands now, essentially, and it will go out soon.
When do you think we'll get our next update?
The next update will probably be the project is beginning.
Are they gonna ask us for money?
Probably.
Do we know how much?
It's probably going to be an open-ended engineering contract without.
Another blank check?
Pretty much.
I love those. I wish I had those. Oh. Okay. All right. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that.
For the record, I'm not in favor of blank checks, taxpayer.
Next is item F, which is DOT, and I'll let Ron talk to this too, but I do know, unless I'm misspeaking, they're supposed to break ground on Potter Wesley Chapel in July.
Sounds great.
I don't know about y'all, but I've been getting many calls and complaints about school traffic, to which I found out that Shamwood did qualify for a traffic signal. However, the installation of a traffic signal would really depend on solutions proposed for 84 and Potter. And we don't know what that is right now, because it had a pin put in it. So, to be determined. And then I don't know where culverts and roads stand. Have they?
I guess it will be voted on by the CRTPO board in March, maybe. And nothing changed. I think I relayed that there were some under the cover maneuverings about getting things reevaluated, and that didn't happen. So.
Along on that, and we were talking about this either last month or the month before, about the subdivision that's being built, the senior housing projects being built on Cuthbertson Road that was conditional upon them improving the intersection. Still no updates, still no. They're selling houses in there left and right, the traffic's getting worse and worse.
Yeah, they're supposed to finish the intersection before they got the first CO.
So how do we remind them of that? That they're not supposed to be getting.
Call your commissioner.
I would call my county commissioner representative and express my displeasure with them. They set the policy.
10 more meetings and we'll bug in their ear.
Did they accept our other road that we wanted to study?
Our intersection?
The
Yeah, the county is issuing an RFP for a transportation engineer to do that work, and I'm going to be on a committee in April to review the proposals that come in for that, to do those preliminary designs. So that will, I guess we'll probably approve a recommend a contractor for that in early April, and they'll probably start working on it after July 1.
Which improvement?
Billy Howie.
And Waxahachie Trail.
Yeah.
To do a study for.
Just look at the critical intersections that were identified to do some additional work on them for future submissions.
We committed, what, 4,000?
4,000, yeah.
Say that got designed, and council was like, oh, we think this is a great idea, would we just,
We would talk to NCDOT about submitting, first we would see about submitting a grant, kind of like we did with Cuthbertson and Newtown. We would look at submitting a grant with them first to see if we could get it funded that way. I don't know how that might turn out, but or start working on identifying additional funds with NCDOT or whether to run it through the STIP process.
because that is such a bad intersection.
But it would be a local match.
I mean, you could pay for the whole thing.
Yes,
If you want to.
if we don't get them help with that, their minimum be a local match. At some
Yeah,
point.
and as Cornelius was putting 50 to 60% of funds up for projects this year for grant, CRTPO grant funding.
We would pay 50 to 60%.
If
That's just
you don't
make-
have to, it's
Make you competitive.
you can do whatever you want. I think you look at the STIP process, go through prioritization or get on the list some other way. But that we would do that jointly with others instead of just doing it on our own. I think.
That's a nice way of saying the bigger the bribe, the higher you up are on the list.
It's just such a needed, I mean, I feel like we're knocking out like the really big ones, right? Potter, Guy, hopefully Potter in 84, Cuthbertson, like,
Yeah,
I don't want to lose steam.
I will say that if the village had not increased its commitment to Cuthbertson and Newtown, it would have not been funded.
One thing you brought up is you were talking about you're going to be vetting contractors.
Mhm.
I'd like to know a little bit about that process, because when they did one of the roundabouts at, just up the street,
Let's-
the issue was they started late, they finished late after school started back up, and then they didn't really build it to specs. I spoke to a gentleman at the DOT, I said, did you inspect it before you paid them? And he said, no, we just paid them. 6 months later, he goes, you know what, I went back and you're right, they didn't build that thing to the right diameter. And I said, well, does that mean you're not gonna use these guys anymore? And he goes, no, we'll still use them.
So I clarified, we're looking at engineers to do preliminary design work, not to build anything.
Okay, so the designer's not the guy with the shovel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so potential local matches we might have to come up with at some point could be Billy County, Waxahachie Indian Trail. The cost of the Cuthbertson roundabout might go up, and we might have to do some.
I don't think we're gonna have to,
You don't think so, we think we're clear on that. Potentially the Shamwood and Potter, depending on how that plays out.
Maybe,
maybe.
yeah.
And then whatever, because we never did anything for 84 and Potter. Would we have to? I mean, that seems like a major thoroughfare, why would we have to?
I would hope not. But
Okay. I'm just trying to get a feel for.
But at least Shamwood potentially and Billy Valley, my part.
Well, the DOT likes to use accidents and statistics that they compile as far as what intersections get priority, which ones get paid by the DOT, which ones, they expect matching. We can always plan some crashes over there and then get the stats out.
I did ask, Kathy and I talked this afternoon about looking at the, budget and trying to plan out for multiple years in advance. I did ask Kathy to reach out to, I'm assuming DOT, but to find out how much sidewalk we do have to build. And we've only allocated 48,000. So depending on how much sidewalk we have to build, we really need to think about what we need to put in that bucket of.
To clarify that, I think it's more than that, because it was we allocated it over multiple years, and then each year we were putting a percentage of that in. Because I remember,
That's what's in the line.
I remember putting that much in a single year, and I know we did it for multiple years.
All that's in there is $48,000.
I'm gonna have to go back and check.
For sidewalk.
Because I really thought we were putting 20,000 a year for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, all that's in that line item right now, Kathy, is $48,000, right?
For the sidewalks, yeah.
Or is that-
But there's an assigned There's a couple pieces, yeah, but there's only 48,000 in that one bucket.
So I asked Kathy to, I mean, it's not urgent, but to look into how much we're gonna have to build and a better estimate of what it costs.
And that's kind of where I was going with the local match, because with Potter and Potter, we did a local match, and then they came up and said, well, do you really want it? Because if you do, give us some more. That's kind of where my head's at.
Well, I like what Kathy has prepared for us to look at as we work through the budget season, because it does have kind of like our commitments for years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what that will look like for us. So
And
so I want to have it accurate.
and we would like to, if each of you would like to meet with the mayor and I one-on-one to walk through and get your opinions on it, and then we'll bring the entire thing back once you've had a chance to kind of, play with it a little bit. Have your thoughts, opinions, your desires, whatever you think we need to put in it, we can build it.
So any more DOT questions before we move to Parks and Rec? All right. Pat, you've waited so patiently. I'm so sorry. We should move you up higher. Sorry, Pat. We'll do better next time. We'll put you first. Kathy, we're gonna put that first next time. Get around by.
I just have a couple of things. Thanks. We, this year, we had our first meeting of the year, a couple of weeks ago. So what we talked about as a committee, we want to move, as you know, we want to move forward with getting that next part of grant. And in order to do that, we've got to get our master plan updated. So with that in mind, we decided, Jim actually did a really nice draft RFQ for getting some firms to give us a hand in getting that master plan updated, so then we can then go to the next step with the part of grant. So we've got the draft. In our next meeting as the committee, we will take a look at that and see if we need to make any changes, and then we will forward that on to you guys. And recommendation for a $250,000 direct grant. This is very exciting. We found out we were going to get that.
Stay tuned for item 8. It might not be as exciting.
Oh, really? Okay, well.
I think what you need to cover is the recommendation of Parks and Rec. We came out with that.
Well, we didn't have a recommendation, that we were going to wait and see. For example, I think one of our committee members made a very important point. If we got a part of grant, that's a 50% matching thing, and it's $250,000, if we hung on to it for that, would be an excellent match. But you're all laughing at me now, and I'm thinking,
Stay tuned for item 8.
all righty. Well, we'll skip to the next thing. Past and future events update. No Easter event. Our friends at Southbrook Church have decided to go a different way with that, so we will not be lending any support to them with officers and porta potties. And then obviously the part of grant initiative, that's down the road a little bit. We need to get our master plan updated.
So no Easter event, no car show, right?
No car show.
So what's the next event?
We're looking at a possible movie night. We know we can put together movie nights very cheap, pretty cheaply, and they're very, very well received. People love them. So maybe at least one, maybe a spring, maybe a fall. So we're looking at, I think September 13th. It's a Friday night. And then Coco's and Carols, the Fall Bash in October, and Coco's and Carols. Those are by far our most well-attended, well-received events. So
I had noticed in the budget, we had specified for the different events, and like and he has $5,000 out there for the car show, and I'm like, should we, think about that as moving it back to the general fund or something? That's not gonna happen, or these are not.
We know that we have to start looking at the budget in the next meeting or so. Is I think what, March is when we
Well,
start?
that would be this year's budget,
Right, well,
because the car show would be this year's budget.
well, yes, and that's true, we won't have to, we won't be
So,
spending.
events before.
That money will just go back into the general fund.
Yeah.
But that won't be until the end of the budget season, though, right?
Yeah, what I'm saying is there's no events planned between now and the end of June, and those funds have been designated for that, you should consider putting those back in the general.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yes.
That's all I'm saying. And then, to your point, figure out what the events are gonna be for the next fiscal year.
Any questions for Pat before I tell you item 8?
Pat, are you aware of all the upgrades that John's doing in the park with the mulch and the gravel and the?
No,
Do you care?
yes.
Okay. When Kathy, when you and John go back and forth with like what's being ordered, what's being delivered, are you copying Pat on that?
No, because John pretty much overlooks that budget, but I can give it to her. I think the budget's put out there for everyone, and the information is in it. It's online, and it's
I think
pushed
as
out.
important as Pat has a position of chairman of the Parks and Rec Committee, she should at least know what's going on in the park.
She got a copy. She gets a copy. Well, she got one this month, and she'll get one going forward.
No, not a copy of the budget, but a copy of, hey, we're ordering gravel, hey, we're ordering mulch, hey, we're doing, just so she knows kind of what's going on.
Well, I think we get updates in our meetings.
John good.
Yeah, he usually does. Is he still here?
No, you don't.
He usually does. Sometimes he's not able to come, but.
I just don't want you to feel like you're being kept in the dark.
That's not, yeah, that's not, as long as it's not.
Pat will let us know.
Yeah.
You let me know, Pat. I'll take
Yeah.
care of you.
Are we going to take on parking rangers?
Yeah, we are. I mean, you guys,
They're out there.
What was the question?
they're out there.
I didn't understand the question.
Parking rec minutes, meeting minutes.
Should be on.
Last
They
time I
go-
checked, they weren't.
Yeah, they should be online as well. If they're not, we'll get them on, but they should be online. I give them to Amy, and Amy puts them on.
So for item 8, right, the Christmas present, you've all been naughty because our engineer thinks that there's a 35% match required on FEMA funding.
So,
So
not the $250,000 grant, the dam engineer thinks there's a 35% match.
if we receive the funding, she thinks we'll have a 35% match. So there's $250,000 that can go towards the,
Almost $400,000, yeah,
so,
Do you have an estimate yet?
for the dam,
Yeah, or what the FEMA grant might be?
was it?
You estimated between 800,000 and 900,000,
Yeah.
or 1.1 million, so
Yeah.
just,
Okay,
1 million.
we don't have anything yet, okay.
do we ever get a detailed, specification of all the money? Okay.
Of what was cost for the dam?
Yeah,
Yes.
what FEMA needs this extra money for and stuff like that? Is it
Well,
just,
there is a breakdown of the potential $1 million cost, if that's,
okay,
yeah.
because I was just curious.
Between engineering fees and all of the other stuff, it's pretty significant.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but now knowing that we potentially have to pay 35%, that's a
Well,
nice little chunk of it right there.
Yeah, that's why we weren't making any recommendations in our last meeting as to how that would be spent. We
Right.
kind of,
Because then we didn't have to hurt your feelings.
no,
Without a dam, we have no park.
All right.
no, absolutely.
Thank you, Pat. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. So that leads us to remember. I'm trying to remember. I got it right here. January minutes. Hopefully at the next meeting that the new county chair will be there and Ryan Matthews will be there to give an update on the, I think, water and sewer and just a general county update, which would be nice. It will be in Mineral Springs at 4 p.m. on February the 22nd, next Thursday. Marvin has taken over, Weddington was doing the website, Marvin has taken it over, which is nice because Marvin's clerk is really, really quick to do things and is young and probably very website oriented. Probably knows a lot more about what to do. And has already tracked down some of the minutes that weren't posted. So he's working really hard already. We did table some stuff to the next meeting because Joe from Marvin wasn't there, including a conditional annexation bill where we had talked about if your house was in unincorporated county land, that when it's sold, it would then go into a municipality. So it wouldn't impact the current homeowner, but would benefit the municipality if the future sale. Discussion of exemption from payment to published notices for certain meetings, and discussion of a, Jeff from Weddington would really like to do a big March meeting in the evening, so it would be, have more time and space for more residents to come and more people from the county level to come and have a good discussion on things going on in the county. Kind of, I think, like we did when we went to the county a couple of years ago.
They should, we should be pushing them to do that again.
Yeah.
Because that was a good wake-up call, I think, for some of the county commissioners. And it let them know where we stood. It was what? 3 hours of our time? And I think a lot of good information.
Absolutely.
But we can't initiate it. They have to.
But hopefully this will initiate like some concern on their side for like what's happening on the western side of the county. Somebody did come, and it was very interesting. Somebody came from the sheriff's office to talk about grants from the state traffic safety program. It's a 3-year program where the amount the state pays keeps going down, and the municipality or whoever the grant receiver is will pay a little bit more each year. But based on what I heard, I really didn't understand why the discussion was maybe we all apply together for this grant safety program, but really we could apply individually and have the coverage in our own municipality.
Well, I guess the question would be, how would the funds be divided by
Right.
population, by size, by who you know?
And we all have enough traffic to warrant having this, but also if you participate in this and you get your other deputy, you're never getting rid of them, right? Like you're gonna have that deputy for forever.
And you'll have to pay for even if there's no grant.
Right, after that 3 years, you're paying for that deputy and that deputy here.
And as a reminder, for those that have been around long enough, when we originally had the cost of our contract deputy was offset by the business licenses that we were charging local businesses, and that's how we were able to pay for it. When the state deemed business licenses illegal or no longer allowed to be collected, we kept the deputy on, but paid for him out of our own pocket. So,
Fire.
exactly.
And I mean, there is still that continued pressure because Weddington has 3, Lyman has 2 or 3, so.
We can always raise taxes. And then when people complain, say, well, but you wanted another day.
So, it was a fairly short meeting, with a few members absent, but the February meetings are pretty exciting if the new commissioner, board chair, and county manager come to speak. It should be interesting.
Who's the new chair?
JR, the new guy.
Really?
And that brings us to mayor and council comments.
I got a few things here. One, if everybody saw the really nice article that was done in the Union County Chamber magazine, we were mentioned a couple of times about our park. I don't think the picture was very good, back of some kid's head and some bricks. But, we did get a little blurb, but it specifically talked about our low taxes and our current 0.0129 per $100 mill rate, which nobody else had their mill rates looked at. But everybody got a nice little blurb. They all had a really nice photo of their parks. It was just a really well done, well thought out thing, except, like I said, for the back of the kid's head. So, I also wanted to remind everybody that we've got the meeting coming up on Thursday for the Union County Chamber 2024 elected officials reception at the Union County Ag Center. I might have a scheduling conflict for this, but I wanted to see who else was planning on going.
I went last year, and it's just, I didn't get anything out of it. It's basically just, hi.
Well, the good thing about it is you put faces with names and
Yeah,
you meet people, and there will be some, not just county commissioners, but the
Representatives.
House representatives will be there as well. So if you ever wanted to get a chance to spend the year with that person. We also have, coming up Friday, March 1st, the ribbon cutting that we've all been invited to in Waxhaw for their new park. And then following that, there's another ribbon cutting on March 8th in Waxhaw for their recreation barn. So within the same month, they're opening a new recreation barn and a new park. If you've been over there to see it, you know how nice it is. If you haven't, stop by.
Recreation barn?
Recreation barn. It's the red barn that's just off Main Street.
It used to be a baseball athletic barn, and they bought it from the owner.
Yeah, it's going to be really nice. They did some improvements or some upgrades. So they've got a lot of things going on in Waxhaw, and
A lot of traffic.
yeah. And there was something else. Oh, is it too early to start talking about dates for our budget meeting?
No? Does everybody know their schedule that far out to May, early May, mid-May?
Got it right here.
It doesn't matter yet.
Well, I would say by maybe next meeting, we need to start the discussion as far as dates. We've been lucky enough to do it all in the last few years, because we're all getting along really well in one meeting, but I have seen that meeting go as long
Oh, no,
as
it's
as 2 nights.
We're gonna do it.
I hope so.
It's important that if you guys will come and talk with me, we'll put notes so that when we all come together, everybody's familiar with it, and then you can do what you want with it.
And Pat, one of the things that we need for Parks and Rec is to get with John and with Kathy on the Parks and Rec budget to see what you like, what you don't like, what needs to be discussed at the next meeting.
I'll be getting with Pat on the budget I've put together, and I'll talk with her about what we need to do.
And if John says he wants a new pickup truck, say no.
Absolutely not.
We budgeted a Silverado 250 new.
That's what he wants.
Is that all?
There's something else, I can't remember what it is, so I may have to come back to you.
Okay, you pick it. Next.
I got nothing.
Next.
I was just going to share, as most of y'all know, my daughter's an educator in Durham Public Schools, they're going through, something on the financial crisis and fiasco right now. And I've spent several hours over the last few weeks virtually attending their school board meetings. And a few things have become very obvious to me that I think is applicable to us. And it's about ensuring that this body does their due diligence, that this body understands the details and the context of things and doesn't just trust what someone tells them. Because that was part of the problem, is the board did not understand the details of what they were approving. So they basically gave people raises and then retracted them.
Oh, my goodness.
Because they didn't understand, and in fact, in one of the meetings, one of the members had to have steps defined for her. But that's part of what the compensation study was about. So it really kind of stood out to me. So as we're going through these things, even the things tonight and everything else of not just trusting, really making sure we understand what we are doing, what the details are, and the considerations and the implications. Because even as they were going through it, there really wasn't, they really did not do a good job considering implementation. They're just like, this is great, let's go do it. But they didn't have the funds to do it. They didn't think about the consequences. Well, if we do it for this group of employees, what happens to another group of employees? So it was very interesting. They're still not out of it. They've had multiple strikes. The transportation group was on strike Friday and Monday. That'll be today. Week before last, 12 schools went on strike. And last week, 6 schools went on strike.
Goodness.
Just to try to get the board to pay attention to them and do something. The CFO and superintendent are no longer employed with the district. So it's a really big mess. And so it just really did drive home to me the burden that we have. And fortunately, we don't have any issues with their budget. We don't have that many contentious or complicated things come before us. But when we do, we really would behoove us to make sure that we are paying attention to the details.
And you get the vocabulary word for each. Behoove and what was the other one?
Vacillate. It describes us, I'm sorry, but it does. But that was it. And then the other thing was that in March, the date for the online ethics training will be out for the May date. That 4 of us have to take. You have no excuse not to take because it's online.
I got it. Don't let me forget.
Will you share that with me, Mayor Pro Tem Bailey, because
It was in an email.
I inquired today and she said that she didn't see the download available and it wouldn't be available
No,
June
it
through
was-
October.
There was one thing on there because you have to pay for it. And it was like the date will be out in May. And then after that, it'll be on demand June through like October.
So we can take it to June?
Yeah, if you'll send me whatever you've got, maybe I got it, but
I clicked a few times. I mean, like I went in and what is this and looked because I know I have to take it.
yeah.
So.
And I'm trying to get that to send that to you guys.
But it was something that got me started on that.
I don't know, another question. Last time I spoke to you about the heavy equipment that was sitting out here next to the medical building, you said it was for the water main. Well, obviously, they're doing something other than
Chase
that.
Bank.
They're putting it back. That was one. The resident asked me about that. I asked Amanda about it. She said it was just a water main extension.
Well, it was the water main, and then they put up that fencing, and I asked why, and I was like, people are starting to ask, what is it? She said,
And the way that you pull in and you come to turn into the lot, the way that point sticks out and all, I'm just like, yeah, I think I'll do something about that when you put in more traffic in here. And I used to see them coming out that bank and nobody can make a short turn.
So Councilmember Bailey, to your point, if I might, I see there's 4 opportunities. Are you looking at the School of Government or are you looking through the NCLM?
It was through School of Government
And she's,
that I got the information.
and, well, Carla Stowe, who has been up there a while, she says that there's 4 opportunities and the on-demand webinar is June through October.
Yeah, but I think there's a online course in May. Like we'd all show up at the same time to watch one in line, and then that's recorded to be the on-demand one in June or August, is how I interpret it.
That may be, and I've been looking around, and I can't find anything, so I sent Carla an email and said, can you help me? And that's what she came back with. But I'll send you what I find, and maybe we can help each other to try to get
Yeah,
that.
we have to pay for it.
Well, of course. Well, you have to pay for everybody that takes you can't just buy one and everybody take it, so.
Well, we saved some money on one person.
Just totally ditched his ethical responsibility.
Do you have anything to share?
Sure. Five.
Oh, God.
Is one of them a famous quote?
No, they're not. Five quick things. I got 4 calls this month from residents. One was about, what's going on up here, I got that answered. Second was inquiries about a farmer's market. I told them that I felt like if someone volunteered to step up and at least put together a plan, the council would possibly hear that plan. I'm not looking for any comments one way or the other, I'm just sharing, and I want to make sure this gets in the minutes. Third was the security in the Target parking lot, concerns over that. I explained to a little bit that it's private property, that it's not village property, and that I'll pass that along to the sheriff's office, which I did. And fourth was also concerning traffic here before reckless driving. Pass that along. Again, just want to make sure that it's in the minutes and that at least council is aware of those 4 concerns for the residents. And lastly, my wife, in a former life, was a grant writer for the agricultural community. Knowing how much effort it took her to put together a grant, and I was not here last month, so I couldn't share this. I want to share that with you and the team, all the efforts that you guys put together. They're certainly appreciated, and very, very thankful that you guys were able to not only apply for that grant, but also get awarded. Hopefully. That's all I got. We did get a grant, didn't we?
But we didn't apply for
We
it.
didn't apply.
So even better. Thanks for grant, guys.
I only did it, I already
What's the
said,
I was like,
thanks for doing that.
We got money without applying for it?
Yeah, for Office of State and Budget Management just spread it pretty far and wide to a lot of municipalities, and us included.
You need to stop those 3 schools here. 2 things. Kathy has brought up several of our code enforcement outstandings, for lack of a better way to call it. We are talking with George to get some updates on a few of them, and I hope to have an agenda item in March to talk about the status of some of these, because I know we continue to get comments on Centrella, we continue to get comments on some other ones. So now that Vaughn has some extra help and Kathy's kind of got things under her belt, we want to proceed with trying to tidy up some of these code enforcement issues. And then I will be sending out the RSVP for the volunteer appreciation dinner this week. So as you get it, please respond so we can get numbers to the Mr. Buzz. And I think that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
February 12th, 2024 council meeting.